Hey everybody, welcome to another BrainScratch playthrough. This time, I've got
Friend request.
Yay, I'm popular!
Wait, hold on. Two friend requests with a Pikmin icon. No!
So anyway, this is Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope, which is the new subtitle since they
All the
split up
campaigns have to have their own.
Yeah, so anyway...
Your name is weird, Ted.
yeah, you know, Xan Butt. That's been my screen name for years, hasn't it? Right? Xan Butt.
So are we butt scratch commentaries now?
Yes, we are butt scratch commentators.
Shit, don't give Momocon any more ideas,
I
for
hate
fuck's
to
sake.
I hate to be the killjoy of the group, but I would never actually play the game with the butt cheat on because
Oh,
that's
well,
just
I'm
not
actu-
where my sense of humor goes.
Well, I'm actually a little bit annoyed at myself because I didn't get achievements because it is technically a cheat code. So the achievement for beating the game with the new Switch file for I believe I tried to do the one where you kill Black Knight using reflected shot, being safe with campfire.
We're juvenile.
Yeah, so... Yeah, so, you know, if you're an OG like me, you remember back in the Kickstarter campaign where they were talking about butt mode like every other meeting.
as a joke incentive, and then they fucking went and did it.
Yeah, it was... And what's funny is that they ended up seeing later on that they had to show the ESRB butt mode when they were getting the game rated. So that's also really funny. But yeah, Shovel Knight, this came out in 2015, 14? It's been out for a while now. It was originally a Kickstarter game, like probably the most highly looked upon Kickstarter game.
So, question: Is every character in this game gender swapped in this playthrough?
Yes, I just sent
Okay,
it for opposite.
so that really curvy enchantress is going to be a muscly man.
A fine-looking man.
Yeah, the Enchantress, you know, went to the gym and got really, really buff in between.
And
In a matter of 24 hours.
and burned all the fat in her chest, I suppose.
Yeah. So I did opposite. You can do random. You can do random genders. You can set one person to a specific gender, like just have female propeller knight if you want. It's actually and you can set them to have different genders in their names as opposed to their design. So you can have this Shovel Knight sprite, but have
you can
Shovel
have
Knight
them,
be
you
referred
know,
to as a male.
you have them be the pronoun however they want. I remember hearing a lot about this when it happened, and the only thing that I could think was, okay, I can play as a slightly thinner Shovel Knight.
Yeah,
It doesn't really affect the story much because those cutscenes don't change.
Yeah,
Slightly underwhelmed here.
I just personally like that they did change every single sprite and they gave you so many options for it. I think there's nothing wrong with
it's a nice
options.
concept. It's just like if you're gonna go that far, do some more pixel art for the cutscenes too. You know.
Well, the pixel art at the beginning is really the only cutscene like that in the game. It is a little bit disappointing that they didn't change it.
That's what I mean. There's not much pixel art. It wouldn't take long to redo it, so redo it.
I don't know with how long it takes to get some of these other campaigns out.
Yeah, the pixel art is done painstakingly too. Like, we should mention that, like, this game obviously goes for the 8-bit aesthetic, but honestly, I feel like it does it better than almost any other game that tries to go for these.
Well, because they're
pixel
not
art things.
limiting themselves to the 8-bit in and of itself. I believe when they were talking about it in the interviews, they were talking about how we remember it looking, not how it actually looked.
Yeah, I believe.
Or how it actually felt, I think is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I admire Shovel Knight so much, and getting into more general Shovel Knight talk. One of the reasons that I admire Shovel Knight so much, and to some extent, Freedom Planet and other similar games. Not so sure about Spark the Electric Jester. That looks a bit bland to me. But it's the way that the graphics are done with such artistry within their limitations, which sets them apart from a lot of other indie pixel retro games where it's pixels for the sake of having pixels, and you can tell
we're cheap.
There's not as much care put in as there was in the time when they were trying to squeeze as much detail and charm out of these pixels as they could, rather than going back to them because they were pixels.
Yeah. It's an artistic decision, not a budget.
It's actually really interesting if you look at like their development blogs and things like that, because there are some like those dragons there. They originally animated those dragons to have more frames of animations for its wing flaps, but they decided to cut down on the animations because an NES game wouldn't look like that. But what's also interesting is that when they ported the game localized the game for Japanese markets, they decided to bring those animation frames back in because on Japanese Famicom games, a lot of characters had more frames of animation.
Yeah.
So it's the amount of care into doing what they call like a reverse localization is absolutely insane, I think.
I don't particularly agree with that choice, but I understand why they made it. I personally
yeah, because it's really weird because I know the game looks 8-bit, but it's certainly not 8-bit. And if frames of animation are brought into mind, there are some things that are still technically impossible on the NES anyway.
Like widescreen and parallax scrolling.
Like widescreen. I mean, the sleeping dragon that you defeated earlier had way too many frames of animation for an NES game.
Or the amount of colors.
The color palette is also a thing.
Yeah, I believe they said like there wasn't a yellow that they liked on the NES palette, so they just added it because they'd rather have a yellow than try to be true NES. You know, I like this kind of stuff better than like Mega Man 9 adding in the slowdown mode because...
Or a sprite flicker.
The only way to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess I should mention this is a 100% run. I'm going after all of the items, all of the music notes, all of the shop upgrades, all that. So that's really the only way I really like to play Shovel Knight. Because
the game's too short otherwise.
Well, it's honestly a little bit longer than most Mega Man games, even if you are running through the game as fast as you can, because the levels are pretty long.
I think the length is just right, honestly. I feel like it has that perfect balance of length where you can sort of just play through it in 1 or 2 sittings.
It usually takes me 3, but that's because the difficulty spikes for each world, we'll call them, like each map screen.
Well, I mean, assuming a relatively tame playthrough where you don't fail too much.
Yeah,
It took me 3 playthroughs the first time.
Yeah, I
never count deaths in my estimation of a game's length. Because we're past that era where deaths were a source of length intentionally.
Well, speaking of, fun fact, this is the first complete run of Shovel Knight I've done in months, because I've been trying for ages to do the achievements where you beat the game without dying, and you beat the game with breaking all of the checkpoints, because if you're going to go for those achievements, might as well do both at the same time, right? So, like, I mean, it's not like you have to restart your playthrough if you ever die, because if you go back to the map screen, the game forgets that you ever died. So it's not like it's impossible, it's just that I always get so frustrated by the time I get to Plague Knight stage, or even if I beat that, by the time I get to Propeller Knight stage, it's just like, okay, fuck this. I'm done. I'm playing something else for a little while. And I enjoy the game much more when I'm just trying to have fun with it and not going for any sort of specific challenge run.
Yeah,
I never went for the really hard achievements just because there was no real point to me.
I'm kind of having that same issue with the Insane Trilogy right now, because when I played through Crash Bandicoot 1 just on my own time, like, I had no trouble. Like, the only level that gave me trouble was the lab, and I gave up after 2 tries because I just didn't care about the gem at that point. And now that I'm actually recording the game for this channel and trying to get all the gems, I keep slipping up in Slippery Climb, which I perfected on my first try the first time through, but no, now I need to be screwing up all the simple jumps.
Of course.
This entire valley has been conquered by the Enchanter and his invincible butts of the Order of No Quarter. Oh, man.
Steal thy butt.
Steal thy butt.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite lines is early on, as soon as the playthrough begins, like the amulet wrought a terrible butt.
You know, there's something possibly wrong on possibly the worst level about using the butt code and the gender flop code at the same time.
That's why I did it. So I believe if you do butt mode, it translates the words butt shovel magic, and maybe if you butt shovel magic and I think knight are alternative. No.
Well, yeah, because Shovel Knight is butt.
Yeah, so I think there might be a few others hidden throughout, but we'll see those when we get to them eventually. But one thing that I really want to bring mention to is that I love the way that this game presents its story, because not only does it does a lot of story without words, I think. Like, this script, I think, has like less than 10,000 words, I think, total, which is impressive.
This light flicker is so not 8-bit.
No.
It's 16-bit. Let's not play around with that idea. That is totally 16-bit.
Yeah, but even like on top of the script, though, one thing I love is that this is one of the only games I can think of other than Thousand Year Door that tries to make the text kind of dynamic, where it will like move around and everybody's got a different kind of voice for their text.
Yeah, and I like that.
Yeah, it's exactly like Paper Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did the only you.
Hey, it's a free 150 gems, so
yeah,
might
but I'm
as well
like,
go for
would
it.
any 8-bit system have managed to get that level of detail into the grass or trees? I think not.
You know what's funny? I didn't immediately think of like Smokey the Bear when you get the achievement for digging up the campfire. I thought it was more like mocking me for thinking like only you would actually try and dig up the campfire because you're a greedy asshole.
Oh, wait, this is my... Wait, no, am I going to talk to the...
All right,
the
so,
Goatician has my favorite line in the game. Oh, should I extend my butt or my butt?
Okay, so there is one thing that slightly bugs me about Shovel Knight's art style, and it's simply that we've got these Legend of Zelda style, Zelda 2 style town sections, but Shovel Knight's sprite is very obviously proportioned to feel like a Mega Man sprite, and it sort of clashes because everyone in the world is taller and thicker than him.
Well, maybe he's a dwarf.
It doesn't really bother me all that much because of how varied all the different characters are. Because like you've got normal people, you've got horse people.
It's sort of yeah, but that's the thing. It sort of feels like Shovel Knight is in the wrong style for the style that surrounds him. And I know that this was like an intentional aspect of the sprite work specifically because Shovel Knight's actual design, and this is especially apparent in his ukulele cameo, is a lot taller and stockier. Even
Minigame time!
This is one of the weirdest minigames. Like, I mean, I don't mind it being here, but
it's weird, but it's fun. I love this.
It's fun, but if there's one thing that I think Shovel Knight could have benefited from, it's having more minigames. Like, I know that there's a specific minigame for each playthrough. Like, there's the tower climb Inspector Knights mode, which I hate because it's impossible. To
be honest, being that guy who prefers Crash 2 over Crash 3, I disagree. I think a small number of mini games is good for a platformer,
well,
but I'd rather.
I think there's just one.
I'd still rather like the bulk of gameplay design be focused on the platforming.
What was the detail you really liked, John, before we keep going?
The detail I really like, they didn't have to do it, but Mona is the reason why all the beakers are forming in the midair, and they detail that by having her snap her fingers every time a beaker performs. They didn't have to do that, but they decided to do that anyway. It's a minor thing, but it's detail that I appreciate.
Yeah, the animation work in this game is top-notch.
Yeah, it's like we could probably gush over the sprite. The pixel art particularly is just phenomenal. Oh boy, it's my favorite character.
Yeah, it's like, indie titles using pixel art all the time is something that I've gotten pretty damn cynical of over the years, and thankfully it seems like they're backing off that at last. But
we found Ted's father.
But like,
yeah.
it's always I always find myself pointing to Shovel Knight as an example of why I'm cynical about it, because this is what it looks like when you do that stuff with heart and effort and with an actual eye toward what that kind of art style is supposed to be, whereas everything else, or most of everything else, not everything else, but
and yes, there is an achievement for listening to all of his puns,
which I can't get because I'm in butt mode. Duh, I forgot. Yeah.
Does this guy have an official name? Because if not, I dub him Ted.
It's Croaker. Its name's
Croaker. Right. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't looking.
So when you read the word Troople or Trapple or
It's Trowple.
It's Trowple. Okay.
Yeah, they have a.
It's Trout and Apple.
Yeah, it's like the way it's written. I read it as Troople, and it wasn't
Everyone
until
did that at first.
It wasn't until I actually met the Trowple King that I realized it was supposed to be Trout and Apple.
Well, the guy said the guy says pronounced like mouthful, which isn't actually a very good comparison word because it's like
yeah,
I guess
it's got that ow
trout.
sound in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love the design for this guy too, and if we ever do get to Spectre of Torment, this guy is actually in that game, which I was surprised by it once I got to the credits for that.
And it was like I had to see the Trowple King to even know that hat the Acolyte is wearing is an apple with an eye. Because it just sort of looks like a standard floppy red hat.
I thought it was like the profile view of a fish or like a tadpole.
I thought it was like I thought it was just a regular old hat. I thought it was like a regular old like oversized painter's hat with a feather in it.
It's like it's a combination. Oh my god.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to spend too much time in the towns here. So
Yeah.
This
Another
is the,
thing-
He says after listening to a minute of both.
well, I had to do that, but
No,
What
you
is
didn't.
with the woman who has a horse's head?
there's just random shit in the world which I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Dragon Ball. They're dog
That reminds me of the
people.
stupid ass horse mask that's such a fucking meme on the internet in the most obnoxious places.
Oh, I've actually seen one of those in person, and I had to put it on. It's actually really uncomfortable in there because it's made out of rubber, and it gets
Yeah,
really hot.
it's
and hard to breathe.
it's super creepy, and I get why why people think it's funny, but I've started to associate it with like Hotline Miami tier psychosis.
There's also an achievement for bouncing out that ring a number of times.
It's like you wearing this outfit, you're most likely a serial killer. And I have nothing to do with you.